Hello friends, Demagen here with another Metroidvania map announcement and kind of semi-mini review style thing. We'll do the map stuff first to get it out of the way, and then if you want to stick around for my thoughts on the game, you can do that. So this is what the map looks like. It's a reasonably substantial game. Took me roughly 12 hours to get through, and I am not in any way claiming that this is a 100% map. Does it technically have 100% of the things on it? Yes, I believe it does. Does it have full instructions on how to legitimately get all 100% of those things? No, it does not. And you might think, what does that mean, Demagen? You're usually quite thorough with this stuff. And I was quite thorough with this stuff. But the game does do something that I don't like, which is that there are missable things. There are 41, as it says in the bottom left-hand corner of the map. There's 41 cats in the game, and I know of 3 that are missable. So there is that is missable. There's also a couple of other things which I think are technically missable if you don't do a quest line in quite the right way. So I only found out about them. It's all marked on the map. But there are a couple of places where I say, I'm not entirely sure how to legitimately get this. So if you found out, do please let me know. I will add the details on. But I don't want to play through the game again. I liked the game, but not enough for me to want to play through the entire 12-hour experience again. I didn't enjoy it that much. There are other things that I have to do, that need to do, and so on and so forth. But I did have a pretty good time figuring out, first of all, how to get the map and how to put the map together and how to put things on it. So we start down here. The ending of the game is actually at the same place as the start of the game because it's one of those types of things. And basically everything that I could find is on here. So any NPCs with quests or not with quests, any locked doors, any of the cats, any key items, any of the ghostly wormwood that you can find that you can use to upgrade your stats. There's notes about different things. There are switches, there are amulets that you can find to enhance your stuff. I'm going to talk all about those in a bit. Pink gates that you require power to get through, special locations. I've no idea what this switch does. I missed it. If nothing else, I might play the first small section of the game again just so I can try and figure out exactly what that one does. There's sheet music, there's key items, all of the stuff that you would normally expect from a map from me. There is a way in the game in fact it's an amulet. You can get an amulet in game which will let you see the locations of certain things like the XP pickups and interactables, but that doesn't show you the location of amulets, key items, or cats. There is another amulet that you can wear to tell you if a cat is in a specific zone that you are in, but it doesn't tell you exactly where the cat is, but they're all marked on here, so it's entirely up to you how you want to go through the game. But yes, just look out for the warning things. There are 3 or 4 of them, and yeah, missables. I really dislike missables in Metroidvanias. I know a lot of devs think it adds to the replayability of something. It's like, I don't think that is the case. Personally, I would much rather go out of my way to 100% something, to really dive into something on my very first playthrough and say, yes, I have completed, I have found everything. Going through 11.5 hours of game and then being told, you needed to find a cat in this place but you can't get back to it, and it was like 2 hours into the game. That does not sit well with me. So, if you don't like missables, you can use this map so that you don't miss them. I'm not going to say it's a game that you shouldn't play, because it is a game I enjoyed in many ways, and I'll talk about that in a second. But just be aware that there are missables. And this is a free map. There's no paid version of this. I'm just on a bit of a roll recently of just saying, you know what, I think this is too niche for anybody to really want to donate any money for or what have you. So it's just up in the Google Drive. It's there. It's there now. That does mean that it won't be getting a huge amount of attention for me in terms of updates, depending on what the dev decides to do. But if you are interested in the game, you're interested in finding everything on your first playthrough, there is technically, I think, a way of getting all the endings on one save file. But I think you probably have to do things in a very specific order to do that. And I didn't do it. I missed one of the endings. And again, I'm not going to play through the whole game again, so I cannot confirm. And I really try not to put information on the maps that I cannot confirm. I've had to do it in a couple of places, but I don't like doing it. So there we go. Shaman's Ark map over at demagen.co.uk/Shaman's Ark. Not the Shaman's Ark, just Shaman's Ark, capital S, capital A. I'll put it up on the screen. Anyway, that is the map there. Enjoy the game. If you like rhythm games and so on and so forth, yeah, let's talk about, very quickly, because I don't want my voice to give in, let's talk a little bit about the Shaman's Ark as an actual video game. One of the things that I am very, very keen to impress upon indie devs, as if, you know, I'm some kind of voice or authority, just because you played a lot of games in the genre demo, doesn't mean that you're actually somebody to be listened to. But one of the things that I do tell devs, if they ask me, which they have done, big headness mode engaged, what do we need to do to get our metroidvania to stand out? Well, first of all, you need to make sure that it has got something unique about it. If it is just another game that looks like Hollow Knight or Blasphemous or Metroid or whatever, that will sell it to a degree, but it still needs to stand out in some way, shape or form. And normally when it comes to describing a Metroidvania, I might say, oh, it's a 2D pixel art Metroidvania, it's a 2D pixel art Soulsvania, or it's a 2.5D Comedyvania, or whatever. This is a 3D game world with 2D game objects and interactables and characters, kind of a little bit like one of the old Doom boomer shooters. You know, the fact that everything was a flat sprite, but in a 3D world, although admittedly in the old Doom games, the world itself was also 2D. But yeah, 3D game, world, 2D sprites, and when you find an enemy, you get taken out of that world, a little bit like random encounters in an old Final Fantasy game or something like that. And the combat is a rhythm game, where symbols come down from the top of the screen and you have to press them in time with the rhythm, which works really well. I'd say probably 95% of the time, depending on reaction speeds. So if you are good at and really like rhythm games, like me, then on the controller, I was terrible at rhythm games on a dance pad because I can't dance and I've got massive feet. Anyway, excuses. The rhythm-based combat is, in my opinion, really good. I really like it. It was fun, it was engaging, and it was skill-based. So I knew that if I died or I cocked it up, either there was a mechanic that I missed or I just played bad. And for the first half to 2/3 of the game, let's not say 2/3, let's say 3/5. Is that greater or smaller? This is why I don't teach maths. For the first chunk of the game, just over the halfway mark, the game's focus was very much on these rhythm-based combat challenges, and I really, really enjoyed it. Going around the map, exploring, finding new enemies, figuring out their rhythms, getting stuff from them was great. But when you've only got 4 face buttons to work with and you don't want to make it overly complicated because you're a solo indie dev, you do then need to find ways of making things more challenging. Because otherwise, you know, if halfway through the game you've reached the pinnacle of difficulty, your player's still going to continue to gain power. What do you do to challenge them? And this is where I feel that the latter half to a third of the game falls a little bit flat. Rather than the focus on rhythm game mechanics being kept as the main focus, a lot of the bosses specifically have bullet hell style mechanics or beams or AoEs that take place in the actual game world as opposed to on the battle screen. And some of them are fine. And some of them have got hitboxes that feel a little bit chunky, frankly. And it all compounds with the unfortunate feeling that the double jump, which you get at around the probably around the 55-60% of the way through the game mark, maybe halfway through, depending on how well you do. A lot of it comes down to, a lot of the frustration in the second half of the game comes down to maneuverability, because the precision isn't there. In the first half, the challenge of the game was the combat and the skill needed for that. There was not a huge amount in terms of what I would consider tricky platforming, which is good because you didn't have a double jump or a dash or anything like that. It was just you as a 2D character in a 3D world, and sometimes the precision of landing on platforms was a little bit off, and sometimes you'll fall into a pit and get stuck in a repeating fall into pit loop because the game doesn't respawn you on safe ground for whatever reason, which I'm pretty certain is a bug, not a feature, and it needs fixing, like, quick. There's plenty of examples of that in my full playthrough that I've put up on YouTube. But the later bosses have this issue that actually you need to complete some patterns in order to get into a round of the rhythm-based combat. And I found myself getting more and more and more annoyed and frustrated with the hitboxes and the quote-unquote patterns of the stuff surrounding the bit that I was really enjoying. And that really, really brought the feeling of enjoyment that I was having down quite a chunk in this game. Because I don't think the controls and the jumping, and especially the double jumping and the platforming, is good enough to become the focus. Because, as I said, the rhythm-based section of the game I was pretty decent at. The challenge of the platforming and stuff felt a little bit like, I think I used the phrase artificial difficulty in my playthrough, and I'm not entirely sure that's technically true. I think I probably said it in a moment of frustration, but there were many of those stacking up towards the end. The question was, and I mentioned this in my long play as well, a question was raised on the Steam forums about, is this a Metroidvania? Stop tagging your games as Metroidvanias, devs. It's like, yes, this is a Metroidvania. It has ability gating, it has interconnected world, as you can see from the map. It's got a world map, it's got secrets, it's got things to find, it's got collectibles. Is it a really strong Metroidvania based on my normal 3 pillars? Whilst there is ability gating, there's not a lot of it. It's not like there were a load of Metroidvania powers here. There's obviously a double jump, because I've mentioned it. There is a special power that allows you to get through. So there's a pink gate here. There's pink gates in multiple places. There's one over there as well. And you need a special power from up here, actually, to get to those. But the main things that you find are runes which you add to your combat, your rhythm-based game combat. So you start off with a green rune and a red rune. The green rune you have to hit or you will take damage. It's your defensive rune. The red rune is your attack. If you miss that, okay, you just don't do any damage to the enemy. But if you do miss the green rune, you will take damage. And that can be added to with the blue rune, which is a stackable kind of damage over time effect, and the purple rune, which is a magical barrier. And much like the green rune, the purple rune is also you gotta hit it. If you don't hit it, you are going to take damage. There's more nuance to it than that. You know, each enemy's got different patterns and so on and so forth, but that's the general gist of it. And it's not super hard, but some of the enemies in the later areas do have slightly trickier patterns, different rhythms, and so on and so forth. I didn't have any real issues with, as often happens in indie games, I didn't have any issues with the symbols being offbeat or anything like that. There were a couple of occasions where the actual graphics weirded out a bit, but nothing that was massively detrimental to the general experience. But that is kind of it. So you've got your double jump, you've got your thunder power, which lets you get through pink gates. Those are the two main kind of out in the world powers. And then you get your blue rune and your purple rune for use in the combat. Now, for some people, that might not be enough to really qualify it. For me, that's fine. I don't mind. But for some people, that might not be enough. It's not like the world is huge. As I said, 12 hours to get through 90%, 95%, maybe even 98% of the game. As I said, I was only missing a small number of things by the end. So there are quests. There is a leveling up system where you can choose what you want to put your XP into. You can choose to upgrade your physical attack, the red rune, your physical defense, your health, essentially, the green rune. You can upgrade the purple rune so that if you hit it twice in a row, it will explode and do magic damage. And you can upgrade the blue rune so that it does more damage over time. It's entirely up to you. I don't think there's any particular focus in terms of which way you want to go. It just means that you can shore up your own shortcomings. There are plenty of secrets to find. There are interesting NPCs to talk to. The world itself is quite dark, tonally, which I really appreciated. The camera could do with some work at times. It has a tendency to clip through walls and stuff like that. It's not awful, but it's very indie. But I came away from the experience very torn. If I'd written, as many people do, a review of the game after about 5 hours, it would have been an easy thumbs up, recommend that you try this. It's good. You know, if I'd written a Steam review or something like that. And now, having completed the whole game, I would find that much harder to do. So, do I like the game and do I recommend the game? Yes. I think, and I'm not 100% certain on this, I think it just barely scrapes into my C tier as a game that is a decent Metroidvania that I would recommend that you try, especially if you like rhythm games. Is it an amazing Metroidvania? No. It's got just enough to qualify, but more importantly to me, it tries something different. I forgot, we need to talk about talismans. I said I was going to talk about talismans. Spoiler warning though, because the only footage I've got is actually fresh footage with all of the talismans collected. So if you don't want to see that, look away and just listen to the sound of my voice until I say otherwise. There is a talisman system in the game. It's very much similar to the charm system in Hollow Knight or the rosary system in Blasphemous. You've got a number of slots. There is one way to upgrade a slot later on in the game. Start off with 3. You can technically get up to 4. And each talisman occupies a slot. It's not like a notch system where you can get multiple notches. It's just a flat cost. And they all do different things. And like in Hollow Knight, there are actually also combinations as well. So for example, if you combine this one and this one, you get a bonus that says the bones have befriended. If you combine this one and I think it's that one, yeah, the bones are befriended. There's probably other combos as well that I just didn't find because I didn't look. I have no idea if there are more combos. Yeah, there we go. There's another one that I hadn't found before. I like the system. Is it a little bit similar to systems that we've seen elsewhere? Yes, absolutely. Does it work well? Also yes, absolutely. Don't try and fix what ain't broken. Back to what I was talking about. However, the latter third to half of the game for me becomes more frustrating than fun with its focus on stuff that isn't that core skill-based challenge of the rhythm-based combat. I'm going to talk spoilers now for a second, so if you don't want any spoilers, skip to the timestamp on the screen. Spoilers begin in 3, 2, 1. One of my biggest peeves in video games across the ages is those sections in video games where you have to run away from the action towards the camera, and you've got to deal with obstacles that you can't see because they are in the same place that you are, and you've got limited control over the camera. I believe they happen a lot in the Uncharted games where you're running through a plane or whatever and there's cargo and stuff and you have to dodge around it, but you can only see it at the last minute. I really dislike those sections. The final boss in the Shaman's Arc is one of those encounters. You have to run away towards the camera with iffy precision controls, a slightly wonky jump, obstacles with hitboxes that they might actually be really precise, but they don't feel very fair. And there's at least one, and you'll have to forgive my language here, there's at least one fuck you gotcha moment in that sequence that I fell afoul of and got really annoyed with. And I've left it in the walkthrough, so you'll be able to find it towards the end if you want to find it, if you want to watch that, if nothing else, in that 12-hour video. Whether it was designed as a gotcha moment or whether it was simply a slightly unclear amount of signposting, I don't know, but it felt like a big middle finger to me as a player, and part of that is due to the frustrations that had already been building up in that section or the last chunk of the game. But yeah, the actual rhythm-based combat with the final boss, not really not massively difficult. You know, I think I beat him in like 5 or 6 goes. It's not a really hard game if you've got manual dexterity in your fingers. Obviously, if you struggle with rhythm-based games, you are going to find it challenging. And I don't think there were any accessibility options. And I believe the dev is working on a New Game Plus mode where everything is harder. I don't know exactly how that's going to work. I'm probably not going to find out. So, combat is fun if you like rhythm-based games. The exploration and biomes are fun if you can deal with some janky platforming. As you can tell from the colours of the map, all of the zones are quite different in terms of their general look and aesthetic, and in-game they've all got a really decent sense of tone and atmosphere that I really liked. The metroidvania powers that you use in combat or to get around these places, there's not many of them, but there's nothing wrong with them in principle, even if they could probably do with a little bit of tightening up in practice. For those of you who've played Crypt Custodian, which is kind of along similar lines in terms of its top-downness, the controls in Crypt Custodian are much more precise when it comes to the 3D platforming. It's not quite there for this, but, and I want to be really, really clear with this, all of the things that I perceive as problems could quite easily, I think, well, with some ease, be fixed if the dev wants to do that. If they don't, fine. It's still a game that I would recommend, but I think it is a game that could more solidly be pushed into my C tier with some tweaks. I don't think it's ever going to get into the B tier, just because I don't think it does enough metroidvania-y stuff to do that for how my B tier works. But as a game that I will say, yeah, I think some of you might like this. It is a decent recommendation for me. So, or from me. I hope that made sense. I hope that was an okay kind of summation of my thoughts. Again, this wasn't supposed to be a super long video, but you know me and rambling. Hopefully you have learned something from this. Unfortunately, I don't think there is a demo for the game, which is a bit of a shame. I think actually possibly putting a demo out for the game would be a good idea. But yeah, it is what it is. The Shaman's Arc. C tier, just C tier, Metroidvania, kind of. I want to call it a Rhythmvania because in my head that's a cool moniker, and as far as I'm aware, there aren't any other Rhythmvanias in the same way as this. Let me know if there are, because I'd be interested in taking a look at other games that have tried this kind of thing. In terms of, does the game have a unique selling point? Yes, it does. For me. This is very different, very unique. The storyline is quite dark. It's almost, and I've kind of been reticent. In fact, no, I'm not going to say this. I'm going to say it has got a very dark fantasy story, because I don't want to use the other well-known genre / subgenre as a comparison for this. It's not one of those types of game beginning with S. It's not that kind of game, but in terms of the tone, is that kind of darkness, world is coming to an end, slight crypticness to proceedings. So if you like that kind of thing, narratively speaking, it's not got a super strong narrative. It's not a story-focused game. It's not a story-driven game, but there is a story, and there is some really good writing in this, although not necessarily good spelling. Every now and again, I've spotted the odd typo or spelling mistake, and the localization isn't always consistent. But indie game, you know, I enjoyed most of what was here, with just some niggles about missables and the shift in focus in terms of difficulty towards the end. Let me know down below if you try it for yourself. Let me know down below if you used the map and found it helpful. And I'll catch you all in the next video. Have a great day. Cheerio. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, why not click the like button and consider subscribing. Remember, you can ring the bell notification icon to get notified when new videos go live. And until next time, cheerio.